They're just awesome.
I'm here for both.
What? You can be awesome and childish. For example, look at me. Okay, so I'm going to start this out by just asking a few questions and tell you and warning you, I do call on audience members, but I do give prizes. If you're willing to participate in my strange little games, you get these dust notes. And you get to spend some wonderful time up here with me, because I'm awesome and you want to be near me, right? There's so much to do though. Do you want to have fun?
Yes!
Can I make fairy tales fun alone?
No!
I can't, I'm a sad panda lover. We need to have fun together. So, I'm going to start out with the first fairy tale, called The Man Who Bought a Dream. Can someone please bring me a cup of water? Thank you, John. John? Yeah, I pick on you, I know. Don't worry, she knows where I live, she'll be me. So the first story is The Man Who Bought a Dream. Once upon a time, okay, you've obviously never been here. Whenever I say once upon a time, you get this look on your face. So let's try this again. Excited, childish face. Once upon a time. Yes, you did it. You're all such right. Once upon a time, there were two farmers. And they were going along, but they realized they needed some thatch for their roofs, so they went out and they started cutting grass. This went on and on into the morning, and one of them, the lazy one, started to get tired, and he was, let's take a break. Well, the other one wanted to keep going, but he realized there was no use pushing him. So they both laid down under a tree where there was some shade, and the more industrious one was trying to go to sleep, but he couldn't because the other one had already gone to sleep, and he was... Okay, let's try this for you. Come on, slow down. Now the thing is, as the story continued, keep up the smarts. As the story continued, he kept tossing and turning, and he just couldn't go to sleep because he had such a bad roommate next to him under this tree. But then he heard a and it flew off. And the man just, he's still snoring as he heard it into the distance. Well, the first farmer is wondering what's going on. He has no idea what this is. And not even half an hour later, right back into the man's nose. And he woke up with a start, I just had the most interesting dream. What was it? I dreamt that I was flying over the lands, then over the waters, and I found this little island where there was this beautiful castle. And I went down to a tree, there was a cherry blossom, and it was white. And I went underground, and the further I went, I realized there was a pot of gold. And then I came back, and his friend looks at me and goes, please, let me buy this dream. You want to buy my dream? Okay, would you want someone to buy your dream? Yes. Also, I don't think I very much. The three of us? So he says, please let me buy your dream. So his friend goes, how much? Well, I have this much on me. Well, that's not quite enough. It's a very, very good dream. So how about we try a little bit more? So the farmer ended up giving his friend all the money that he had, not just on him, but even in the house, all of his savings, everything for one dream. And when he went home that night, he had to tell his wife that he spent it all on a dream. What do you think her reaction was? Okay, I'm going to do 3, 2, 1. I want you all to yell like an angry life. 3, 2, 1. That's a really good dream, and I can make something out of this. I can do something with this. But of course, his wife didn't necessarily believe him. But he wasn't going to give up. And he kept begging and pleading, please go to your mother and father. Please get some money so I can go to that land and see if there is money under the tree. We can be rich, we can be wonderful. But she'd have none of it. But as the weeks went on, he kept begging and pleading, please. She finally agreed. So he went to his father and mother-in-law's house. He bowed before them and he asked for the money. And at first they wouldn't do it, but he continued looking so pathetic, and they were finally just like, fine, take it, leave. Get out. Get out. Get out. Get out. So then he has his money. He's quite happy. And he sets out on his trip that very day. And he goes along, he keeps traveling and traveling. And he goes for months and months, and finally he starts to see the water. So he ends up traveling across the water. And not shortly after that, he arrives at the island, and he stops and asks everyone, where is the wealthiest man here? Where can I find the castle? So, of course, everyone directs him to the daimyo's house. Sorry, I had thirsty. So he arrives at his house, he knocks on the door. Out comes his crusty old man. Yes? I'd like to see the lord of the house, please. You can't. Please? No. So the man had to wait outside the house, on his knees, sitting there for days before he was finally admitted in the house. And eventually he was let in, where he met with the daimyo. And the daimyo asked him what his purpose was. Now the problem with our farmer is that he was a little bit too honest. So he immediately told daimyo all about the gold, the dream, where it could be found. Well, do you think the daimyo was a kind man? He was very wealthy in his own right. He had the most wonderful robes, he had a wonderful house, servants to tend to every single need. This man wanted for nothing, but that gold was on his land, so that made it his. So he told the farmer, I'll have my men dig for it, and if they find it, you can keep it. Now, stay here tonight, and we'll let you dig in the morning. Well, that night, as the farmer went to bed in the most luxurious room he'd ever been in, as he went to sleep, the daimyo had his men go out and begin digging under the tree. And they dug, and they dug, and they dug. And whenever they finally got to the bottom, there was nothing there. It really was just a silly dream, so they just put it all under there, pushed the dirt back over it, and left it be. day, the farmer goes out. He thinks he's finally going to get the dig up this gold. And he keeps digging and digging. He realizes the soil's a little bit loose, but he doesn't think anything about it. He's so excited. And finally, when he gets to the bottom, there's nothing. So he goes to the daimyo, he apologizes, and he starts a long trek home, knowing he's going to have to face his wife, and how is she going to sound. Now, the sad part about this is he's walking home. He's going to think, oh my God, she's going to kill me. And he looks at the bridge and he wonders if he should jump over. And he almost does, but he finally realizes he needs to face his wife. When he arrives home, however, he finds something he hadn't expected. His wife was literally sitting in a shower of golden coins. Apparently, on the very night that the daimyo had begun digging for the gold, there was a shower of gold that began raining from their thatched roof. It came down, 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 down. Apparently, the gold had found its rightful owner and refused to be with daimyo, rather with the man who bought a dream and followed it. Yes, please. I would like to have my sound adjusted. They don't do that for me. I'm apparently not important. Oh, thank you. Oh, thanks. So who wants to see me dance around like a tea kettle? Oh, you'd say no. Okay, well this next story deals with a lucky tea kettle that wasn't quite a tea kettle. Once upon a time, okay, delayed reaction. Let's try this one. Once upon a time. Much better. A+. Once upon a time, there was a shrine. And in the shrine, there were several monks, and they lived, and they went about their work. And one day, they were going to have some tea. Now, there had been a very special offering brought. It was this brand new tea kettle. It looked somewhat interesting. It was a heavy bronze one, but they thought they would give it a try. After all, offerings to the shrine, why not use it? Now the head priest went over, he took it, he filled it with water, and he put it on the fire. And it began to bubble and bubble, and he thought nothing of it, until he heard he looked over, and next thing he's noticed that the spout of the tea kettle wasn't a spout, it was a tanuki head. Out is the head of a raccoon dog. And he began to look at it, and he couldn't believe his eyes when the tail popped out of the back. And then it sprouted legs, and started scurrying across the floor. Well, of course, the priest starts praying immediately. This thing must be possessed. So he's praying, and the more he does that, well, it just upsets the tanuki, so it starts flying around the room. Imagine a tea kettle flying around the room. Well, they try to do everything they can to catch it, but they can't. So they spend hours and hours, and finally they're able to catch it in a sheet. They pin it down, and they start to talk about what they're going to have to do. Pinning it down and holding it down, and they realize they're going to have to put this in a box, put it away, and try to bury it so that nothing can ever come. But at that very day, there was a tinker, and he had come to do some work at the shrine. And it should be said that the head priest was a man at best. He really liked his money for his shrine, so he made a deal with the tinker. Instead of his gold, which he was supposed to receive for this, he would instead receive a blessed offering from the shrine. What do you think he gave him? He gave him the haunted teapot. So it was boxed up. The man took it home not having any idea what it was. It had gone back to being a normal teapot, at least for now. And he went home, set it down, pried the crate off, and he left it there. He put it up, and that night, as he laid down to go to bed, he heard, and he opened his eyes, and he noticed there was a teapot running around the floor. Well, he thought he must have just been tired, so he went back to sleep and ignored it. Imagine his surprise the next day when he went to go make some tea. And, once again, out sprouts the head, out sprouts the tail, around goes the tanuki. And as he tries to reach for it, it began flying again. But unlike the priest, he just kind of It's a bird, it's a plane, it's a tanuki. So he went to his friends and he told them about this because this just continued happening. He was too afraid to get rid of the tanuki, and he wasn't sure if he could throw it away because it had come from the shrine. What?
Carmen's asking. Does that sound a little better? Less mighty?
I'm sorry, I have an interesting voice.
I'm sorry.
The mics don't like me. Thank you. So, the man is just wondering what this is, but he can't get rid of the thing because it came from the shrine. It must be sacred. So instead he goes to his friend, who says, you know, you can make some money off this. What are you talking about? Well, if you sold tickets, who wouldn't come to see a flying teapot? Would you come to see a flying teapot? Yeah. Worked for Disney. What ended up happening with this is the man began selling tickets for people to come into his home and look at the teapot. Now, at first it was enough for it to stand around, but eventually he started teaching it to do tricks. He'd have it walking across a tightrope with a little umbrella. He'd have it doing little flips and tricks, and it would dance all around the room, and eventually, shoguns, daimyos, everyone came to see this. And he began traveling with this tanuki, and he kept going and going and going, and finally one day, he was a very rich man. So he made a decision. He was wealthy enough, he didn't need anything else. So he decided to return the offering from whence it came, and he brought it back to the shrine. Take it back. Do you think the head priest was happy about that? He passed up on a golden opportunity. But after that, the tanuki never came to life again. Oh. Okay, who wants to learn how to do a Japanese dance? Okay, I'm going to have people coming up here to the side, and I'm going to teach you how to do this because you are going to be necessary for this next dance. So come on up if you are brave. Okay, now this dance is going to be very, very difficult. And you're probably going to only see them doing this because I'm going to have to show them. Okay, now, can you stomp your feet? Can you move your arms? Wow, I've got a lot of people. Let's get some people over here, and you know what? Some people come up here with me so we can see. What we're going to do is you're going to be over here, I'm going to be in the middle right there, and you're going to be able to watch me. So I'm going to sneak down, and you're stealing my stage, but you're all gorgeous, so I'm okay with that. Okay, so for the first thing, what you're going to do is take your hands like this. Stomp your right foot, and as you do, dig. Now you're going to dig twice. You're just going to go right, dig, dig. Then you're going to switch to your left, dig, dig. Hard, huh? Okay, so whenever you're doing this, you're going to go from dig, 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 dig. Well, we've been doing that, so you need to take the dirt and throw it over your shoulder. And then you throw it over your shoulder. Now you're getting kind of tired, so you wipe your head, and you wipe your head, and then you push it away. Then you go 1, 2, 3, stop. Okay, so what we're going to have you do is do this all together, and then we're going to have them clap to keep us in time so that we can do this together, okay? Can we do it? Do you want to see them do it? You guys are all so tired. Do you want to do it?
Yes!
Do you want to see them do it?
Yes!
Okay, we're all excited now. Okay, 1, 2, ready, go. Dig, dig, dig. Toss, toss. Wipe the sweat, wipe the sweat. Push, push. Okay, now what we're going to do is have you not all face me. We're going to have you line up around the room so that we can encircle these people so they can't leave. You're stuck, I'm sorry. Okay, so spread out throughout the room. Now you're going to be stuck there until I tell you when to begin. You can stay up there if you want. I'm down here. They don't need to see me, they're here to see you. boxer short girl? Or a goddess. I don't know what you're talking about. I look nothing like Tum at all, even though shut up. Okay, so once upon a time, there was an old man and an old woman, and they had only one thing that they truly cared for, because they'd never had a child. It was a little white dog, and they named that dog Shiro, and Shiro was everything to them. They pampered the dog, they took care of it, and whenever there wasn't enough food, they'd always make sure that Shiro ate the most and got the best food. They made sure that he got all the attention that he could ever want, and to be honest, they just spoiled him rotten. But they loved this dog, and it loved them. Well, the next door neighbor wasn't very kind to Shiro. He would often throw rocks at him and try to kick him away whenever he saw him. But the old man and the old woman didn't mind. After all, Shiro knew better than to go too close, and the man couldn't be that mean. To do what you say? Aww, this can't be good. Well, one day, Shiro comes up to the man, and he speaks. He says, "Please, follow me." "Shiro, you speak?" "Do you speak?" "Yes." "Okay, you're Shiro right now. Look scared." I'm gonna give this girl dust motes. So, Shiro comes up and he says, "Follow me." Well, first of all, he's shocked that Shiro is speaking, but are you going to reject his speaking dog? Are you going to follow it? Yeah. So Shiro says, "Get your spade, get your shovel, follow me." Well, the old man gets it, and it's quite heavy for him, but he follows Shiro, and he follows him, and they go deeper and deeper into the woods before Shiro stops and begins. Should have a new, I should do this. Starts sniffing around, and he stops, he starts pawing at the ground, and looks at the man, and he says, "Start digging." Well, the old man starts taking the spade, he breaks up the ground, and he takes the shovel, and he starts shoveling the ground, throws it to the side, and then eventually he finds bags and bags of gold, because apparently there's oil all over Japan. Well, he has no way of carrying it, so Shiro says, "Put it on my back. I'll carry it back for you." And that night, this poor little dog comes back carrying a huge bag of gold. And how do you think his wife reacted? "Good boy, you're such a good boy. Oh, good Shiro, I'm gonna get you the best house, I'm gonna get you the best food. Do you want anything? Oh, biggest bone in the world. I think I've got a T-Rex bone." I'm adding that part. So they spoil the dog, but of course the neighbors are jealous. They want gold too. So they come over and they say, "Can we borrow your dog?" Well, it's very rude to reject this, so even though they're a little bit nervous about it, the man agrees and he allows the neighbor to borrow Shiro. Well, that night when Shiro gets over there, they treat him very poorly. They don't feed him, they kick at him, they yell at him, and then they say, "We're going to the woods." Shiro doesn't want to. He kept saying, "No, no, please, no, take me home." But the neighbor was very rude, and he actually took a rope, tied it around Shiro's neck, pulled him into the woods, and kept saying, "Find me what you found him." Poor Shiro. So he... and this went on and on, and finally he stopped, and he lightly pawed at the ground, and he looked at the man. He pawed at the ground, and looked at the man. The man shoved him aside, and the neighbor started digging and digging and digging. And imagine his surprise when he gets down all the way to the bottom, and he finds nothing but a pile of manure. Oh. So of course he yells at Shiro, he screams at him, he pushes him, and eventually he leaves Shiro buried in the very hole that he had dug. That night, whenever the neighbor gets home, he doesn't tell the old man, he doesn't tell the old woman. So they're very sad. They have no idea what's going on. And the next day, they finally can't wait anymore, and they go over, "Where's Shiro?" Without any kind of remorse, the neighbor says, "He's where I left him, in the very hole I dug. You want to go get him? He's not there anymore, but you might be able to get something out of there." So he knew in that moment that Shiro was dead. There's nothing that could be done for it. But he loved Shiro so much that he and his wife went into the woods. They found a spot, They sat down by it, they began to chant and pray. And as they did it, the tears started falling from their eyes, and as soon as it hit the ground, a tree started to grow. And it grew very, very quickly. And they were sure that it must be something sacred, and they went to that tree every day until one day, the old man had a dream. It was Shiro coming to him and telling him to cut down the tree and make it into a mortar, to which he can pound rice in. Well, the next day, the old man and his wife, they did that. They went to the woods, cut down the tree, made it into a mortar, and that night they decided to have a party in Shiro's honor. They were going to make rice cakes to celebrate his life. But as they put it in and they started pounding it, it kept growing and growing and growing, and the rice started overflowing throughout the house. They were never going to have to want for this again. Well, do you think the neighbor was happy about this? He was jealous again. So he asked to borrow the mortar. And, stupid old man, he loaned it to him. So the neighbor takes it to his house, he puts in the rice, he starts pounding and pounding and pounding. And imagine his surprise whenever nothing but snakes, worms, centipedes, and all the worst things you can think of start to pop out. Do you want that in your house? What are you going to sound like? I might need some people from the ghost stories last night. They could scream. So this starts to go all around the house. So they take the mortar, they break it, they throw it in the fire, and they leave it. Poor old man, he has no idea what's going on. So he finally arrives at the neighbor's house, asks him what happened, and without any regret or disregard, the old neighbor says, "It's in the fire, you want the ashes?" He was maybe sarcastic, but the old man said, "Yes, please." And he came back with his wife. They had a little room. They brushed as many ashes out of the fire as they could. They took it home. But on the way, there was a hole in the old man's bag. And some of the ashes fell out. And suddenly he noticed that there was a tree blooming that hadn't bloomed in years. Not only that, it was the middle of September and a cherry blossom coming to life. Did that make sense? So he realized it must be in the ashes. So he went to his house, he threw them all around, and all of a sudden they came to life. And as he was doing this, a samurai was riding by on his horse. And he asked him if he would come and show this to his lord. So the old man did. He had his ashes, he went out, and he went to the Lord's house. But as he was throwing the ashes in order to celebrate Shiro's life, he started doing a dance. Can you do it still? You remember? Okay, everybody, face this way. We're going to do this together, and as you do it, make sure you look happy. Don't let them know you're miserable, okay? Okay, everybody, stop. 1, 2, 3, go. Dig. Shoulder, shoulder, sweat, sweat, push, push, push. Keep going. Dig, 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 dig. Shoulder, shoulder, sweat, sweat, push, push. Oh, you're so good. One more time, can we do it? 1, 2, ready, go. Dig, 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 dig. Shoulder, shoulder, sweat, sweat. Push, push. Yay! And as he was dancing, he started throwing the ashes all around, and all the trees in the courtyard sprung to life. And that very day, the lord of the house decided to name this old man with a new name. The man who makes withered trees blossom. You can go sit down now if you like. So he received this special title, and do you think the neighbor was happy? He decided that he wanted to do this as well, so he went into his fireplace. He took out all the ashes that he could, and without even trying this, he went to advertise. He said, "I'm the old man who makes withered trees blossom," and he went back to the same lord's house. "I'm the old man, that's generally one of my disciples. He knows nothing. I am the true one." So they decided, okay, we'll let him try. So the old man takes out the ashes and throws them into the air, but nothing happens. He keeps doing this over and over, and he's getting frantic because the lord of the house is looking quite upset until, landed in his eye. And it actually blinded the lord of the house. That very day, the neighbor was executed. So much for your greed. What do stories like this teach us?
Don't be greedy.
Karma, I like to sing some, don't be greedy. Be nice to puppies, ashes blind you.
Appreciate what you have, don't really that.
That's a good point, appreciate what you have.
Don't get stuck in your neighbor.
You know what, this was interesting enough to share.
Don't be an asshole.
He's so funny. But there's other things with this. It's one thing to be kind. It's one thing to be forgiving. But also be intelligent. If someone keeps messing with you, stop giving in to him. It's not going to help you. If he's already killed your dog, chances are he's going to burn something that you have to. It's just common sense to me. So let's hear it real quick for all our dancers. So did you have any fun with that? Okay, so let's see what I can do here. Who wants to hear a bit of a scary story? Not too scary. Scary enough that children's living room. Once upon a time. This happened. Once upon a time, there was a man, and he was with his wife, and they were very poor. And he tried to care for her, but really all he kept thinking was how hungry he was. And he eventually learned that one of his friends from whenever he was younger had become a governor appointed, elected, a government official, see that? Says it's best with him history, because it's special. So he'd become a government official. Well, the poor man went to him and he started begging, please give me a job, please, 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 please. Well, his friend eventually did. But this man was quite greedy, so much point that whenever he left his wife. He found a new wife. She was quite well off. She moved to the capital with him. And together there, they were quite happy and well taken care of. But every now and then, he would always think of his first wife. And eventually, whenever his friend's term was over, and they were returning to his hometown, he decided that the first thing he would do was seek out his original wife. And when he came to the house, he noticed the gate was open, so he pushed open, and he stepped into the house. And as he opened the door, he noticed that the house was much the same, but it was covered in cobwebs and dirt. It looked like it hadn't been touched in so long. And as he looked around, he noticed his wife lying there in bed. And rather than being angry, she smiled up at him and said, "Welcome home, dear." Immediately the man started crying. He was so upset. He couldn't believe he'd ever left this woman. And he asked her, "Darling, what happened? Don't you have any servants? Don't you have anyone who can care for you?" "No, when you left, you took everything, dear. This is all I have. All I ever had was you." And well, that night they spent the night together, curled in one of those arms, talking about the past, how happy they were. But when the sunlight came into the house the next day, he realized he wasn't holding a woman. It was a pile of bones. Well, immediately he screamed. What is this? And he stepped back, and he ran out of the house. He went to the nearest neighbor's house, and he starts begging as loud as he can, "Open up! What happened to the woman next door?" Well, the neighbor opens the door, looks at him and says, "Oh, it's a very sad story. Whenever his wife was abandoned, she had just sat there in bed waiting and waiting because she got so ill with heartache. She couldn't get up, and she waited and she waited until she finally wasted away to nothing. Well, there was no one to care for her, so they left the body in the house. There had it stayed, waiting still. But no one dared go in, but every night whenever that man went to bed forever after, he heard, "Welcome home, darling. Welcome home." Let's see what we're doing on time. Oh, I'm still doing really good. So I'm going to tell you the story of Momotaro. Who is right now?